Let's do a call for an uprising first.
Because
For an uprising.
a call for an uprising.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. I want to show you repetition that I've noticed, that I've put together, because I feel like it's easier for you to see how these movies and all these shows and why it's important to see these things, how they're using predictive programming to prepare people for what is next to come. I've talked about transhumanism. There's a lot of people on YouTube who are experts at it. There's this mindset of downloading your soul or downloading your consciousness into an AI or into a robot. This is what the elites believe is going to give them eternal life.
I think it's just kind of a cool sci-fi concept. I don't know the first person who enshrined that as like a sci-fi trope, the idea of like downloading your brain into a computer, but that's certainly a concept in science fiction. This is a problem that A Call for an Uprising tends to have, where he'll see some sort of common literary trope or a common trope in fiction in general, and then he will then imply that it's pre-programming to prepare people for something, which is incredibly silly. It would be like me saying, oh, time machines appear in sci-fi all the time. That must mean that the government has a secret time machine that they're preparing us for. Or, oh, unicorns show up all the time in media. They're hiding unicorns from us. You could do this about literally any element of fiction that comes up time and time and time again. Superheroes. Superhero movies are huge. Oh, superheroes secretly exist and they're hiding them from us. No, people just have elements in their fictional stories that get used over and over again. Tropes are a thing. Clichés are a thing. Genres are a thing, and genre conventions exist within those genres. It's not a conspiracy. It's just how narrative functions within a culture.
Makes them believe that they're never going to die. They actually believe this. Like, God can't come down here and destroy a robot and kick it right in the nards and throw it into the pit. But this is what they believe. And
I do like the idea of a bunch of billionaires putting themselves in robot bodies, and then literal biblical Jesus comes down and kicks the shit out of them. And he's like, I said it was easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to get into the kingdom of heaven. And he kicks the robot in the robot balls. I don't know why they gave it robot balls. Probably hubris.
There's been so much predictive programming in films talking about this like it's a good thing, of how cool it would be to be able to download your consciousness onto a hard drive or download it into a computer.
I mean, it's better than the alternative, which is dying, and then your brain meats, rotting, until they're gone, and then you cease to exist. I mean, you cease to exist the second you die, in the way that, you know, who you are matters. Your physical body still exists, but you, the person, the personality, ceases existing. So if there were some way to make a copy of me or something, even though it wouldn't really be the same me that's me, unless there was some way to literally transfer, but that's like soft sci-fi. That's borderline science fantasy at this point. That'd be cool, but I don't expect it to ever really be a thing. If it is, great. Put my brain in a computer, please. I just don't think it's going to be a thing.
So that you can live forever, have immortality. We've seen it in the X-Files. You've seen it in a lot of different movies.
The X-Files also had like a shit monster, I think, in one episode. Does that mean shit monsters are real? It like lived in the sewer and ate shit or something? I haven't seen the X-Files in a while. Am I remembering that correctly? Or did I make up an episode of the X-Files in my head where it's a shit monster? Hold on. X-Files. Poop monster? It autofills, so... 12th episode of the 3rd season. Monster of the Week story. Small town plagued by deaths. Like, I could have sworn there was a gosh darn poop monster. Hold on, let me look at this list. 9 of the grossest, goriest sci-fi aliens. It was this thing. Maybe it's just that it lived in the sewers. The Fluke Man. Fluke Man, super evolved fluke worm, lives in the sewers and drainage pipes. Peering up the working end of a porta potty and seeing some fleshy buttocks to chomp on. Bathrooms, that's why. Gotcha. He attacks people in the bathroom. That's why I thought of him as a shit monster. My bad. I gotta rewatch X-Files sometime. It's a good show.
Here are some clips and some repetitions so you can see that this stuff isn't original content, right?
Okay, nothing is... How do I put this? Who's the guy that wrote the whole thing where it's like, oh, there's like 7 narratives? Hold on. Let me look this guy up. Christopher Booker, looks like. Basically, it's the idea that you can take any story that exists and break it down into one of 7 different kinds of stories, right? There are elements in stories that are used over and over again, and they're just recombined into different contexts and times with different characters and different tropes, but their architecture is more or less the same. Joseph Campbell was the hero's journey guy, so a little bit different, I think. This is a separate thing. So it's very interesting, and of course you can look at basically any piece of fiction and take it down to its component parts and say, this comes from this trope comes from here, this characterization is very similar to characters from this, and that. That's true. The line between original creation and plagiarism is basically how much you're able to mix it up. I don't mean to, not to say there are no original ideas, but especially at this point, the tropes of genres and subgenres are so enshrined that even if you're subverting expectations in your medium or genre, usually it's by taking elements from other mediums or genres and mixing them in with what you are doing. So, like, what's a good example of this? Predator, which is not a new movie, but I think it's good for this. Like, Predator starts off as sort of your typical 80s action movie. You have a bunch of commandos in the jungle that are going to go and fight some drug cartel or something, and they have their action scene or whatever. Now, this trope is then subverted, your typical 80s strongman action character-based, oh, we're a team of crack special forces members. That's subverted by bringing in a sci-fi movie. All of a sudden, it's a mishmash of that sort of action-y Arnold Schwarzenegger thing and an alien movie. And that's a mishmash. Now, are either of these concepts on their own wholly original? No. Marine, like action movies, done to death, especially in the 80s. Aliens fighting humans movies, done to death. But you kind of mix these subgenres together and you get something else, okay? It's not about... Different recipes can use the same ingredients. What matters is what you do with those ingredients to make an original dish.
Everybody always thinks, oh, there's this new movie. They don't realize it because their brain isn't processing the fact that they're seeing the same thing over and over and over. Just like with music, right? Every song is... It might sound different, have a different beat, but the lyrics are the same nonsense, nothing. Talking about money, drugs, right? And rock and roll, talking about hell, being bad, all this.
His last exposure to rock music was the year 1986, apparently.
But they don't realize that all the music's the same, that all the movies and the plots are the same, right? All these movies about alien invasions, right? The same movies come out every month. Demon possession. Okay, the same can be said with, this type of, there's movies cloning, right? All this stuff, and artificial intelligence. And, transhumanism. The same can be said for all of these topics that I talk about on this channel and many other people talk about. But when you see it pieced together, your brain starts to unplug from this stuff. And that's why I feel like what I do on this channel is so important. I don't feel like I'm important, but I feel like what I'm showing you as far as, finding all of this stuff and putting it together in a row so that your brain can process it and go, oh, wow. Because if you don't see it like that, you forget. You see a movie, you forget. 5 years later, you see a movie, different actors, same plot, but you don't remember that it's specifically, oh, yeah, this other movie, unless it was like something that you absolutely adored.
That's just untrue. Like, I don't really like Pocahontas or Dances with Wolves, but I can look at it and go, Avatar took a lot of those same sort of tropes and applied them to a different environment, being a sci-fi environment. And I don't like Avatar either. Like, people do this all the time. Comparative analysis between different stories in the same genres or even different genres that share elements is common to the point that I even feel silly pointing that out. Like, do I need to explain to people that people understand that tropes or elements from one story can appear in another story in a new context, in a new way? And it's not nefarious, it's just how narrative works?
Like Star Wars with a different name or something like that. And even those things, and trust me, I don't adore Star Wars. I think it's one of the worst movies ever. I always like to throw that in there.
He's like the guy that's gotta be like, oh, you like the Beatles? I don't like the Beatles. It's like, alright, that's fine. You don't have to like Star Wars. But it feels a little hipsterish to be like, I think Star Wars is one of the worst movies ever made. Really? Do ya? Are you just a contrarian? Are you just a contrarian? Just wondering. A call for a hipster. Again, I'm not saying you have to like or love Star Wars. If you don't like Star Wars, that's fine. But it's just like, it feels like you're having an opposing opinion for the sake of it. When you're like, I think Star Wars is one of the worst movies ever made. It's not. It isn't.
Whew, man, talk about. Really glad I grew up and wasn't into that nerd fest. But anyway, all these things are
Glad I'm not into that nerd fest. Let me get back to explaining how all of pop culture is a conspiracy to try and get me to take medicine.
these movies, even something like that, like Star Wars, pretty much is the same plot, right? Star Trek, Star Wars, all these space things. I never got into that stuff, but
Star Trek and Star Wars have very different plots. Just because they both take place in space doesn't mean they have things to do with each other outside of that. Maybe you should know what you're talking about before you talk about it. Otherwise, you just sound silly.
you know what I mean. So look at the repetition here with how they are constantly showing you this in a pattern, whether it's through comedy and deflecting to make it seem cool, which I'll show you, or it's through, serious movies that are trying to say this is a good thing and watch out for the dangerous people who want to stop it from happening, like this Johnny Depp movie. Take a look for yourselves.
He's about to show a bunch of clips of different things talking about transhumanism.
I just finished this fascinating book. By the year 2030, there'll be computers that can carry out the same amount of functions as an actual human brain. So theoretically, you could download your thoughts and memories into this computer and live forever as a machine.
Imagine a machine with a full range of human emotion.
Oh, that shitty Johnny Depp movie.
Power will be greater.
You get it. I'm gonna skip. You guys know that movies and stuff talk about putting your brain in computers. You've seen Black Mirror. You get it.
As you slip away, do you feel immortal? Offer humanity's...
Avatar!
2030, there'll be computers that can carry out the same...
And this is exactly why. And this is exactly how they program people. Now remember, the way that magic works, in a sense, an unknown magician, and I'd never been into magic, I've never practiced that crap.
Magic isn't real. Illusions are real. Like, magicians are real in the sense that there are stage magicians that do really impressive illusions that take a lot of time and practice to learn how to do. But that's not magic. Magic doesn't exist. We live in the real world where magic is fake. It's unfortunate. I wish magic was real. I'd be a real wizard or witch, and it would be pretty fucking rad. But magic isn't real.
Okay, people know my testimony. People listen to my channel a while. I never was on the dark side and came over. I might have an attitude. I might have a little, what is it called? Being a little aggressive of a speaker, which intimidates people, but never was into that stuff. But one of the things, if you research the occult and you try to expose them, that you learn is that magic, to enhance the power of the craft, they need to show you it in front of your face, right? That's one of the reasons that they show a lot of these sigils and they splice them into music videos and stuff like that. Because they're using and they're actually putting a spell on you, or when you're watching these videos, you don't even realize it, right? But this is spiritual warfare. This is how it works. Okay, so one of the things that they do, in addition to casting the spell, by showing it over and over, is they desensitize you from it, so that when it happens, it's not some shocking thing where you're going to be like, oh my gosh, what? Because they've been telling you it's going to happen. They've been easing you into it. So when it happens, people are just going to go, oh, that's pretty cool. Just imagine like in the Wild Wild West, if suddenly somebody came in and there was a clone.
I think they'd probably just assume they were twins. People knew what twins were during the Old West.
Of that person, right? Everybody would grab.
And also, the idea of... Let me put it this way. A lot of pop culture and tropes in this day and age, because we kind of live in an era, despite the fact that there's still a lot of superstitious people, our culture is broadly naturalistic, right? And what I mean by that is, in the past, culture was dominated by magical thinking. People thinking, oh, out in the woods there's fairies and goblins and, stuff like that. And believing that witches were literally real, right? So they would take unexplainable things and their sort of shared stories, and a lot of it be based in this idea of, like, magical, unnatural, supernatural stuff. Our narratives today, because we live in a post-Enlightenment society, despite all our issues, I would still define us as that, a lot of our concepts are naturalistic. So, like, the idea of a simulacrum, of a being that is like a doppelganger that looks exactly like you, in the old days, that would be given like a mystical explanation in fairy tales or stories, whereas today, in a trope, in a story, if you're telling a story about something, you're going to use a clone, probably, because that has at least a sci-fi basis, right? Sci-fi tends to be more grounded than straight-up fantasy supernatural stuff. So people in the Old West would not be baffled by the idea of a clone. They wouldn't understand the science fiction stuff behind it, but if you explain to them, this is basically a doppelganger of this person, they'd understand. They weren't idiots. They were just not as educated as we are today. Just like I'm not as educated, hopefully, as someone, 200 years from now or whatever.
And grab their guns and shoot the thing. Or just imagine, if there was this, right? Somebody was downloaded or a robot walked into town. I mean, they would light the thing on fire.
I don't think if a robot walked into an Old West town, they would light it on fire. I think, especially by the time of the Old West, people understood the concept. What does the robot look like? Is it like a beep, boop, I am a robot, like that? Because people in the Old West understood what machines were. Like, they wouldn't understand the machine. It would probably freak them out. But they'd be like, what the fuck is this machine? Whose machine is this? Like, I don't understand. Yeah, Clockwork Toys existed. Like, does he think everyone in the past were just complete rubes with no ability to think or understand concepts beyond that is concrete in their literal world? Jules Verne shit? Yeah.
And probably do more than that. I mean, the thing would be decapitated. The reason that they do the predictive programming is so that stuff like that doesn't happen in the future. So that when they push the microchip, when they push transhumanism, that people aren't going to rebel against it. They're going to be eased and comforted into it because it's not going to be a shock to their system. It's not.
These things are not compulsory. If you don't want to go get robot arms or whatever, don't get robot arms. It's fine. No one cares. Do your own thing.
Not going to be a shock to their brain. Okay? That's important to remember. Very important to remember, because that's how they do this. That is how mind control works. So one of the biggest things that they use in mind control is the repetition, which I constantly show you. The repetition, the desensitizing, and the predictive programming. Those are the three essential keys that are used through the mind control process. And they're doing it on all of us every single day, whether you realize it or not. I read people in the comment section all the time, and they're like, get rid of your TV, get rid of your TV. And I'm just like, you know, I know you mean well, and I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. That doesn't mean anything. You're on the internet. The internet is the TV now. People don't have cable anymore. You could still watch everything. If you're on YouTube commenting on my channel, guess what? You can watch all the same stuff on YouTube. TV shows, movies, it's all there. It's always there, right? If you have nothing and you just have your phone, they're still getting you with marketing ads, commercials. You know, you really have to be off the grid. And sure, there's some people that are off the grid, but if you're on my channel watching this, you're not technically off the grid because you are connected to the internet, which means you're connected. And they're going to always use that to program and control you, okay? So the key, I know people say, well, the key is to get off the grid and do that. Well, if you can do that, do it. But if you can't, the key is understanding it and knowing it when it's happening to you, so that your brain can see it coming. So your brain can know what's going on. It can be aware. In other words, your brain can be turned on instead of shut off. Because most of the time in the day, people's brains are completely shut off. Completely.
Oh, God, I wish I could shut my brain off.
They turn their mind up. They don't realize it.
It's just inner monologue. Constantly. Shut up. Shut up, brain. I don't care.
They're walking around. That's because they're in an alpha state. They're in a sleeping state. Like when you tie your shoes. Are you thinking? No, you automatically know what to do it. The routine of everyday life. Get up, go to work, sit at your desk. This is all just happening without you really processing the things that are going on around you, right? And studying what's going on around you. When you wake up, it's more exhausting because your brain is constantly working, but you see these things. You see the repetition, you see the control, and then you understand how the matrix works, okay? Now, this is the type of video you should share with your friends. They might go, oh, there's no way they're going to download your brain onto a hard drive. Sure, they might think that now, but if you tell people 50 years from now that people in this day and age didn't think it was possible, they would laugh because they're going to be programmed into thinking it. And I think they have the technology to do it? I mean, technology / magic to do it? I'm sure that they think that they do. I'm sure.
Again, this is a grown adult man who believes magic is literally real.
Sure that they do, right? It's not something I'm worrying about because it ain't happening to me, you know? And I mean, and Lord knows they probably don't want me inside of a robot living forever anyway.
Oh, God, please. Call, listen. If I get robotized, I'm going to call it robotized, okay? That's the official name now. You also have to get robotized. I don't want to be living in the year 3000 without a conspiracy theorist to make fun of on a consistent basis. Just come on, be a part of the robots with us, okay? And you can make up conspiracies about how they're drugging the robot oil or whatever. And I'll be like, ha, 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 ha. The robot oil is fine. Joke about popular TV show in the year 3000. Ha 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 ha. Penis joke. Ha, remember penises? Now we all have robo-genitals. Ha ha. There's a little taste of what the show will look like in 3,000 years. It goes, the first 500 years are pretty good, but after that, it's all downhill. So, we got a little bit of time left together before the show turns to shit.
Okay, not that I want to be living here forever anyway either. It's already hard enough right now. I can't imagine if we're still here in 50 years, or the world's still here and the trumpets haven't sounded, what it'll be like. But share this with your friends. Hopefully it helps them wake up, at least to the repetition part of it. And what I'm saying clearly maybe, hit something in their head and they go, oh yeah, that does make sense. Because it should make sense. It's just simple human nature. Just like when you we study animals, and you know what they're going to do. Ooh, this is what, you watch the Animal Channel. You're like, this is what the lion's going to do. This is what the bear's going to do, right? You know where it's going to go. And these guys study them all day. That's what they do to us. They observe our behavior, and that's how they have us caught in this matrix, because they've created a giant bubble to trap us in, because they know how to hold the cheese in front of our nose, or the carrot in front of our nose, right? Or the dollar in front of our nose, and how to lead us just walking into walls and never escaping it.
If the government wants to get me into a robot by offering me cheese, I'm down. Yes, that counts for the space in the bingo card, by the way.
So when your brain starts to see this stuff, you do escape it. I thank you for listening to today's show. I hope you found this video informative. And I'd like to thank everybody out there who supports the channel. Again, please support it if you can through Patreon. YouTube has really been squeezing down. I don't have a PayPal anymore. I just want to make that clear.
Oh, his PayPal got banned! Yay! We did it! Okay, we didn't do that. I had no idea about it, but nonetheless, that's good.
People keep trying to PayPal, and it's not going through for them, and they message me. The only way you can support is through Patreon. Watching the ads in full helps the channel out greatly. And there's also a Teespring store for shirts and things like that, which is pretty much the same as doing PayPal anyway. At least, you got something for it. Thank you all. God bless you and your families.
Beautiful. Thanks, Call for an Uprising. You're nailing it as always.
If you've ever thinking about uprising.
Oh, this is Biden being like, hey, by May 1st, everyone should be able to get the vaccine.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. The world's going to change on May the 1st. Well, it's going to open up more doors on May the 1st. And hey, I'm not even just talking about how more and more people are going to be allowed to receive the jab as of May 1st out of our president's own mouth. But I'm also talking about the doors that are going to open, because May 1st wasn't just chosen by coincidence. Instead of saying the end of April, April 31st, May 1st happens to be the Beltane. Now, if you're not familiar with the Beltane, it is one of the most precious holidays on the satanic calendar. Second, of course, to Samhain.
I gotta look this up. Beltane is the Gaelic May Day festival. Most commonly is held on May 1st, about halfway between the spring equinox and the summer solstice. Historically, it was widely observed that this isn't satanic. This is Celtic? Does he just think everything that isn't, like, strictly Christian is satanic? Oh, that's whatever. You get it. He thinks it's pagan, therefore satanic. That's kind of hilarious. Pretty problematic, too, to be like, oh, this cultural festival that people have been doing for centuries? Satan. Observed throughout Ireland, Scotland, and the Isle of Man. In Irish, the name for the festival is La Bealtaine. In Scottish Gaelic, Le Bealtaine. I know I'm screwing that up. Mentioned in some of the earliest Irish literature and is associated with important events in Irish mythology. Marked the beginning of summer, when cattle were driven out to the summer pastures. Rituals were performed to protect the cattle, crops, and people, and to encourage growth. Yeah. Typical festival shit. It's not satanic in any way, shape, or form. Or Samhain, whatever you want to call it, which is Halloween. This is a date between... Halloween originates in part from that, but Halloween is not that, no. Halloween is Halloween. Excuse me, the spring equinox and the summer equinox, where they believe the veil is at its thinnest other than Halloween, where they perform all types of rituals on people. And this is nothing more than a ritual. Because why? They all want everyone to get the old jabberoo, right? That'd be good, because it would keep you and people around you from getting exposed or suffering... What's the word? suffering symptoms if you were to come in contact with COVID, yeah.
And again, I talk about on my website, accallforanuprising.com, which you haven't joined yet. You should definitely join or consider joining before this channel is taken off of YouTube, because look, this is my 4th or 5th channel. All of the other ones, 2 of them been deleted, which were backup channels. I have a couple existing. I can't even keep track. I'm not somebody special. They do this to all truther channels. But again, I built this one out. But at callforanuprising.com is uncensored content. There's so much stuff that you can learn there.
I gotta go to his website at some point and sign up. I guarantee it's awful. Hold on, let me take a look real quick at the pricing before we end this segment, and we'll go through the bingo card. $2.99 a month. Does he accept PayPal? Or do I have to actually give this psycho my card information? Because I'm certainly not doing that. Why can't I back out? I can't back out of the... Oh, that's ridiculous. Okay. Forum. Sign up. I'm not dealing with this. He's got a podcast. Okay, I'm not giving this guy my information right now, so I'd have to make a dummy email and stuff. I know, I could make a privacy card too. Either way, that's a call for an uprising for today. Still paranoid as always. I can't wait for his next channel ban. Hopefully it'll be soon. Bingo card stuff.